Hello everyone, my name is MrJEPTHAH, and this game belongs in a museum.
Indiana Jones is undeniably one of the greatest film trilogies of all time. Plus a couple of bonus features. If you don't know who Indiana Jones is, he's basically Nathan Drake. With a hat. And a whip. And looks like Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford perfectly personified this brainchild of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, who basically wanted to make their own version of James Bond. And then they did something better. This film series is a love letter to classic adventure films like The Mummy, King Solomon's Mines, and Secret of the Incas. It's full of action, excitement, and suspense, as danger lurks on every corner for our favorite professor archaeologist / Nazi and cultist killer. Raiders of the Lost Ark would certainly make my top 10 all-time favorite movies list. Temple of Doom is an insane roller coaster I thoroughly enjoy.
Well, besides the... well, you know.
The biggest trouble with her is the noise.
And The Last Crusade has one of my favorite film relationships on screen of all time.
Dad! Ah! Dad! Ah!
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull can go the with a and then it and with the rest of the garbage. I don't like it very much. And Dial of Destiny came and went with the fanfare I suspected it would have. But Mr. Jeppy.
Oh, hi, Mr. Peanut Juice Man. How is my favorite mayor of Mahogany World?
Why do you gotta rag on Kingdom of the Crystal Skull like that? Every time we talk about the Indiana Jones films, you've just gotta come out and say something derogatory about that movie.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Well, I'm sick of it, and I won't take any more of this. So I'm just gonna come right out and I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it, man. I really am.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is... Oh, hey, look everybody, it's Mr. Credibility. Mr. Credibility, you're just in time to hear me say that I really like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
And with a very successful film franchise come video games based on that successful film franchise. Indiana Jones's Greatest Adventures is an SNES game.
That's where the sentence stops.
The main crux of this game is you get to play as Indy through the original trilogy. It's sort of like Lego Indiana Jones, except it's nothing like Lego Indiana Jones. Anyway, with the new Indy game coming out this December...
And by the way, when I say indie in this context, I'm talking about Indiana Jones for sure. You know, not like independent game developers or anything like that. I don't want to get anybody mixed up. This is a licensed game. This is a licensed property. I'm not trying to draw any confusion here.
But I thought this would be fun to look back at an older indie game.
Man, I'm throwing myself off by saying that. I gotta stop. This is a licensed game. Don't get confused.
That I'm very curious about. I'm a sucker for these movie licensed 2D side-scrollers. I like seeing how it's adapted.
In my experience, some 2D side-scrolling movie tie-in games are actually really good, and some of them are Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones for the Game Boy Advance. So with that said, let's take a look at this game and see just how well it adapts the source material. So hold on to your potatoes as we play Indiana Jones's Greatest Adventures. So you know Crystal Skulls aren't involved.
Right off the bat, the game opens with an opening animation of the Indiana Jones sprite playing with the game developer's logos.
Bring this back, LucasArts.
On top of that, the game opens with a 16-bit version of the Raiders March, and I just want to sit here on the main menu and listen to it. I love it so much. In fact, the entire soundtrack is so cool. It's music from the movies. I know you're probably like, well, shouldn't a movie tie-in game have music from the movies?
Yes.
I feel like with the movie tie-in games I typically play, which embarrassingly is a lot more than you'd think, the music is very different from the movies they're based on. So, bravo game.
No matter what I think of you in the end, we'll always have the soundtrack.
And the menu is just the cover image. I mean, it's Indiana Jones, sure, There are so many more epic images of Indy you could have used. And you went with Harrison Ford looking bored while showing you he's got a whip over his shoulder? I mean, sure, all you need is Indiana Jones on the cover, but you should have used an image that exudes action. I should just start the game. I don't want to make a whole video that just nitpicks the main menu and box art.
I'm making this up as I go.
Okay, the game starts with a cutscene. Well, as cutscene as an SNES game will allow, that uses stills from the actual movie.
It was a video game in the 90s. What are you gonna do?
Let's go.
Excuse me?
Let's go.
Let's sew?
Let's go.
Let's know?
Let's go.
Let go? Get it!
Alright, so the B button is jump and the Y is the punch button. And so are the left and right shoulder buttons? I mean, it's weird to give a punch 3 different buttons, but on top of that, I don't know why you include a punch button to begin with. Indy's never punched anybody a day in his life. Where's the whip? I want to use the whip! I'm Indiana Jones, why can't I use a... Oh, there it is. And that is the origin story of how Indiana Jones got his whip. It was sitting in a cave, he threw a grenade, and it blew up the whip's hiding spot. Cannon! Okay, I've got the whip now, but what if I wanted to punch? Okay, to be real though, punching doesn't really do much of anything. Fun little detail about the game, you can kick around the leaves. Realistic physics!
It's actually dawning on me while playing this now that this is basically just Super Star Wars, just with Indiana Jones instead. It's almost like this is the same developer or something. Oh wait!
Alright, gotta get over the chasm and...
I don't remember him having superpowers in the movies.
Yeah, that's just straight up floating like Princess Peach in Mario Bros. 2. Overall, I don't hate these controls. Using the whip feels so satisfying, and even as silly as the jumping is, I like the jumping from platform to platform. But my biggest problem is mixing the two. Some chasms are too large to drop over, so they put this hook up here to whip and swing on to make like a chicken and get to the other side. But sometimes, later on in the game, you have to jump up to reach it, and other times where you have to swing from hook to hook. And they're both infuriating.
This is intolerable!
Alright, so we're in this South American cave, searching for some small golden idol where traps are aplenty. Stalagmites are falling, bats are just hovering in one spot, chasms that you can swing over, naked tribal people, spiders. I can't really tell what these are, but they look like alien antennas? Kill it, kill it, kill it! Spiked gate things, poison darts, killer spike things with skeletons on them, and of course, in the second half of the level...
Let's go.
Oh no, it's a giant boulder! Okay, I have some complaints with this level. This is one of the greatest moments in all of cinematic history, and it just doesn't work here. It's a 2D side-scroller where I'm blindly just running to the right, where traps just trip me up, but I can't see them to know to avoid them. Later levels would implement the Mode 7 graphics mode, which was used for racing games before 3D graphics were really a thing. So why didn't they do that for the boulder chase? It might have been fun that way.
But I don't know anything about game design for the Super Nintendo, so you probably shouldn't listen to me.
After you beat the boulder, we get another cutscene where one of my favorite scenes in the movie gets condensed into one image.
It was a video game in the 90s. What are you gonna do?
With Indy and the intelligence agents talking about the Ark in just a few lines. Only, the way the game presents it, the crux of Indy's trip to Nepal is because the intelligence agents think Marion is a Nazi. And that's the only reason he's going to see her in the game. No mention of the medallion, just that these agents think Marion is a Nazi, which is nowhere in the film. Anyway, they at least include the line flying around the globe sequence. So there's that.
Let's go.
Ah, a snow level. Christmas time is here. Happy times and cheers. Fun for all, but in level. The Nazis shoot my face. Now there are Nazis, or I assume they're Nazis because they shoot you with a gun. A whip's not gonna do much against these. Well, never mind. Luckily for Indy, a new weapon is unlocked in this level. Now, Indy has a gun. Snow also hurts you. Yes, that's the one thing that will stop Indiana Jones. Snowballs.
Snowballs. Why did it have to be snowballs?
They don't even really hurt you. They don't do damage, but they do stall you and knock you back into bear traps or something. They're more of an inconvenience than anything else.
Let's go.
When you finally make it to what I assume is Marion's bar/tavern thing in the movie, you have to scale this skyscraper of a building as fire rises to engulf it. Fire safety for kids. If a building is on fire, do not run up the building. Fire safety for kids! Some of the floors collapse that legitimately took me by surprise the first time I played this. And there are burning, rolling barrels you need to avoid. When did this become Donkey Kong? When you get to the top, you have to, I guess, save Marion from Tote. You just have to avoid whatever he's throwing at you and whip him until he's dead. But he's a very energetic bunny, and it's hard to hit him with all of this bouncing. So I just hopped around all day and then I pounced my good buddy Pooh Bear.
I hopped a criminal off to jail for committing tax evasion. What did you do today, Tote?
I tried to torture a girl to give me a special medallion. But I burnt the engravement on my hand so I could find an awesome killing machine to give to mein Führer. I did a little hopping while I was at it too.
The developers probably heard somebody say his name was Toad instead of Tote, and they made him hoppy. Once you finally beat him, he runs away from presumably burning his hand like in the movie? And then you talk to Marion, where we finally bring up the medallion.
Let's go.
And here we are in beautiful Cairo, where you see before you a beautiful landscape, Nazi soldiers and Nazi monkeys.
Man, I really want to visit Cairo now.
Like I said earlier, I won't pretend like I know how SNES games are made or how the cartridge stores stuff, but it's pretty irritating that every time you move these vases or baskets or whatever it is, and then it goes out of the frame, it magically goes back to where it was. It's not even that the platforming is bad. I'm just bad at it. So I'm constantly having to backtrack and move the thing back to where I need it. It's really annoying and makes levels unnecessarily long. This part, for example, took me over 20 minutes to get through. Because A, I stink at video games, and B, this stupid thing keeps moving back to its original spot! And then I died and had to do it all over again. Another annoying addition in this level is the addition of these... I can't really tell if they're humanoid or not. They just drop pottery out of their windows for no other reason than just to annoy you. It's all worth it though, because when you get to the end of the level, you get to play one of my favorite bits from the movie. And it's perfect.
I got to shoot the dude this time. I did.
Let's go.
Then this next part of the level where you have to follow some guy in a cart while he throws stuff at you. If you fall out of the frame, you die and have to start all over. It took me a little bit, but it's actually pretty easy once you figure out what to do. Get on the wagon, kill this dude, and then you gotta take down this big dude without a plane's propeller this time. Boy, I wish that was in the game.
Let's go.
Next, we gotta find the entrance to the Well of Souls. I think it's that way. Inside the Well of Souls,
Let's go.
we go cave diving. Oh no, the Nazis got here first! The one thing that you'd be expecting in this part of the game would have been snakes. Where are the snakes? Oh, there they are. They're just having a little dance party. Well, that's a bit underwhelming. Once you get to the end of this particular level, you find the Ark. And like in the movie, Belloc takes it and leaves us in the Well of Souls to die. Along with some of the Nazi soldiers, apparently?
Let's go.
Indy finds an escape and follows the Nazis and the Ark to the secret island from the end of the movie.
Let's go.
Can I tell you how much I hate it? Here's the thing. The problems with this level are not because, you know, it's the final level of Raiders of the Lost Ark, so it's gotta be the most challenging. It's not in the platforming or even the Nazis you have to take out. It's the birds. A little trivia for you Indiana Jones novices out there, but birds were never a factor in Raiders of the Lost Ark! But they're literally everywhere in this level, and some of them even drop rocks on your head. I'm supposed to be playing Indiana Jones, not Alfred Hitchcock's The Psycho Birds.
This is intolerable!
Okay, now that I've got that off my chest, we finally make it to the final boss.
Let's go.
It's Belloc dressed as a Jewish high priest doing the opening the Ark ritual. And instead of Indy closing his eyes, you just have to hit Belloc with your whip while ghost things come out of the Ark and attack you. It's actually not that hard once you get the hang of it, and once you learn the patterns of the ghosts in order to avoid them, as well as if you're quick enough to just spam the B button to hit Belloc as much as you can. And that's it. No faces melting or heads blowing up, unfortunately. And that's the end of the first game. That leads right into Temple of Doom.
Let's go.
We're immediately thrown into the fight scene at Club Obi-Wan, yes, that's the real name, where you have to avoid these crosshairs as you hide behind various objects, jump over flaming carts, and shish kebab wielding waiters until you get the antidote to the poison Indy has.
Let's go.
Then you're thrown outside and have to race down the streets and the rooftops of Shanghai where nothing is really different from Cairo, except for the giant sinkhole. I didn't actually realize this was a sinkhole until I jumped into it. You finally make it to the plane until you make it over India, where Indy escapes the crashing plane from the movie. And it's at this point that I'm realizing, Willie's not in this game!
Let's go.
We now come to the first Mode 7 portion of the game, where Indy, by himself, is rafting down the mountain, avoiding trees and rocks and cliffs, and this is honestly a really fun part of the game. And it only makes me madder that we didn't get a better boulder level in this game. When the dumbest thing in any Indiana Jones movie is better than the greatest part of any Indiana Jones movie in the game, that makes me a little upset. Also, I should take a second and say, do not try this at home. Snowboarding safety for kids! Indy makes it to the Indian village, where we learn about the stolen Sankara stones and the kidnapped children taken to Bangkok Palace, where we magically transport to.
Let's go.
This part of the game is a maze. You've got to push these statues a very specific way. When you do, it transports you to the next part. Some of them are red herrings that just bring you right back to the beginning, and I got through it on my first try. Okay, that was a lie.
Let's go.
Now, Indy finds himself in the catacombs under Bangkok Palace, where there is no thuggy human sacrifice this time, but there are still child slaves here you have to save. It's a bit too long to trudge through, but I actually liked it. The most annoying part are these burning hot rocks that fall and shatter into multiple pieces, and those pieces can still hurt you on the bounce back. Some bits of the level are just plain unfair for the placing of these rocks. One bit has like 3 places where they just fall and there's no way to avoid them. At least I couldn't find a way. But at least they put hearts right after it, I guess. This point of the level actually terrified me. When I got to this dead end here, I was so petrified. I thought I was gonna have to backtrack or something. But then I forgot, you can jump down from platform to platform.
Let's go.
And that takes us to another Mode 7 level. We're in the minecart that's riding the tracks, and okay, we're on the tracks now, and I think this is the, yeah, this got me a little riled up. Probably not as much as the birds, but this shouldn't have been as hard as it was. All you have to do is use these crosshairs to shoot enemies and the track controls. But it's so finicky! Anyway, after getting through this slog, we get to the very strong bridge and come face to face with Molaram, who is throwing either eggs or the sacred stones, I can't tell. And Indy sends Molaram to meet Kali in hell. After that, he goes back to the village with the stone, where he says he understands its power. The Last Crusade starts out with Indy learning that his father had disappeared in Venice while searching for the Holy Grail. We're supposed to meet Dr. I'm totally not a Nazi Schneider.
And guess what? You don't meet her.
If you haven't seen the movies, you will be confused. I get it, you can't tell the whole story in an SNES game, but you could still give us somewhat of a coherent story. Temple of Doom is honestly probably the best story told in this game because it doesn't deviate from the story while still omitting enough. Especially Willie.
Let's go.
Anyway, we find ourselves in the catacombs of Venice, where... Oh no. Yeah, this giant flaming pillar comes out of nowhere and kills you. This is pretty much just a pattern-based level. Learning the layout of the level and learn the speed and rate of the firewall attacking you. There's a lot of dying while learning. In the following cutscene, you realize there was no part of the game where he met Schneider, but here she is anyway. He finds out the location of the Grail, but he's gotta find his dad first. Man, there's just no telling where he should start.
I know where your father is being kept.
I'll bet you do. So we have to infiltrate some Nazi castle in order to rescue him.
Let's go.
Head downstairs to find Sean Connery sitting down, not doing anything. He doesn't even follow Indy. Indy just leaves him sitting there with a Nazi. Hey, now that Sean Connery has shown up, I can talk about the game over screen I saw 1,000 too many times.
I've lost him.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, this is not a flattering image for Sir Connery. His eyes are wide open, but it feels like it's such a blank stare, like he's insane or high or something. I guess this was some promotional image because I kept looking for where this image came from in the movie and it never showed up.
This is intolerable!
Let's go.
Outside the castle, this is probably fine. I could try to get around this. How am I supposed to get around this? Well, you're actually supposed to just go before the window bursts. But if you're too late, there's not much of a chance you're finishing this level. Next, it's off to Berlin for no explained reason. At least with the other levels, there's some line dropped that summarizes the reason they were there. But here, it's just dropped completely. I'm not saying go with the full detail. I understand why you can't do that. Plus, I can and did watch the movie before playing the game. I'm just asking for you to tell the story well with this format.
I would be curious what someone would think of this game if they played it without having seen any of the movies. I can't really speak to that point for obvious reasons, but I'd imagine that somebody would be very confused with this story.
Let's go.
Indy makes his way through the Zeppelin to escape to the biplane, and we get another Mode 7 level. Controlling the biplane that has to fight a bunch of Nazi planes. You just have to keep the plane up to the top of the screen the majority of the time while shooting at the further away planes and trying to avoid being directly parallel to the closer up ones, as they will shoot at and hit you unless you're looking at them. I guess they escape in the plane and we head for the final location, Alexandretta.
Let's go.
It's just another boring old level that's pretty much the same as all the others. But at the end, you have to have a hand-to-hand fight against, I guess, Vogel? You beat him up before the tank falls off the cliff, and you move on. And now we come to the final resting place of the Grail.
Let's go.
Instead of facing the 3 tests that were in the movie, which could have been done in a cool and exciting way, you just try not to die. Remember the other spelunking levels? Yeah, that's pretty much what this is. Maybe a little more intense than the usual ones. I mean, it is the last level after all. But once you finally get to the end, you meet the knight who has guarded the Grail for 700 years, and you must choose the correct Grail before taking his place. Like in the movie, Donovan chooses the wrong one and turns into a skeleton. Okay, so now that he's dead, it should be my turn to choose, right? Right?
Let's go.
What? So the final moment of this game is a fight that didn't happen in the movie. I guess that's par for the course with this game. Of course, being the final boss, he's pretty hard, throwing his bones all over the place and hopping around. There's a lot of evading to do, but if you get lucky like I did, you'll be fine. Since I was like on the same spot as him, I just rolled and bounced directly on and off him to presumably take his life down enough to just do a couple more swipes. And then he finally died. And that's the end. We just end on this still image of 4 random guys riding off into the sunset while we learn where Indy got his name. Really? That's how you end the game? The movie I get, it made sense in the context of the film, but not really here. If you finish the game on easy or normal, it will recommend you try finishing it in hard mode.
No.
What did I think of this game in the end? Well, for starters, it's just as difficult as its older brother, Super Star Wars. Even if the story wasn't told very well in this format, I still had a lot of fun playing certain parts from the movies. I would also say that there were times where certain levels felt very similar to other levels. Like, there was a lot of copying and pasting. There wasn't enough variety in level design, and some levels were just too unfair, whether because you're too late or because certain objects despawn and then respawn at certain parts of the game. But probably the most annoying feature of this entire game is the save feature. There is none. Yeah, that's no surprise. I mean, it is an SNES game. I mean, even Game Boy Advance games didn't all have save features. There are passwords that, of course, help you go back to where you were, but they'll only send you to the beginning of a location, rather than to one of the different levels in that location. It made it very difficult for me to try to get through this game, as I kept getting stopped and then having to go back where I was like 20 minutes ago, and having to go through all that again. So if you want to check this game out, it's probably best to emulate it and use some save states. Those criticisms aside, I still had a lot of fun with this game. The platforming is fun the majority of the time, as well as fighting enemies, getting to use your whip, punching them even, etc. Swinging can be tedious and hard sometimes, but I still enjoyed it. Like Super Star Wars, it's not perfect, but it certainly isn't bad. I definitely suspect that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle will be a superior game, but don't sleep on this one either, especially if you like seeing how a movie is adapted into a 2D side-scrolling format. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna have to go and watch the original trilogy all over again. Hey, Mr. Credibility, you doing good? That's good. That's good to hear. All right, well, on that note, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay. I will say, there is one good thing about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's about it, really.